Hey everyone, Jack Keeper here, and today I'd like to talk about Shotcut and Kdenlive. These are video editors that I use when editing videos, especially for YouTube. Now, the primary editor that I typically use is Shotcut. That's the one that I chose over Kdenlive. I use Shotcut, and I'm going to kind of give you the reasons why I picked Shotcut ultimately. And this was months ago. This isn't some spontaneous decision I made today. I kind of went with Shotcut as kind of my full-time editor over Kdenlive, even though I love them both because they both are just incredible. So I kind of wanted to give you a quick side-by-side comparison, and then maybe you might understand why I chose Shotcut. But my main purpose is editing videos for YouTube mostly. If I was maybe doing family videos, I might choose Kdenlive. Maybe just because their transitions might be a little bit cooler. Why don't I do a side-by-side comparison? I'm in Shotcut right now. And here I have a video loaded. It's an old video of me goofing around on the guitar. It's something I transferred over from a videotape. So I thought it'd make a nice example thingy. And so if I just jump out here somewhere, and there's me. Yes, that's me with hair. Can you believe it? Now you know how long ago it was. It was way back in the days when horseless carriages were starting to come out onto the streets. Flying machines were appearing in the sky all of a sudden. What a novelty. And radio was all the rage. We were only a generation from a thing called television. So yeah, those were the days. No, okay, maybe I'm exaggerating just a tad. But anyways, yeah, that's me. From way back. So here's one of the main reasons that I chose Shotcut. I'm just going to kind of give it to you right off the bat. The main reason I really like Shotcut is my workflow is just a lot quicker, because a lot of times I go out through a video and I have to cut things out. Maybe dead air spots or typical mishaps that happen during a video, like you know, a beehive falling on your head. And you're just freaking out because you got a head full of angry bees and you're like, get it off! Get it off! So naturally you want to cut those scenes out, right? And so yeah, I mean, it happens to everyone at least twice during videotaping. So we just want to cut those things out. And in Shotcut it's very easy. All we got to do is like slide to a spot like this, and then I would just hit the letter S for slice, and then that'll slice our video, and then slide to another spot and hit the S key again, and then we would just click on this guy here. And then what's really cool is in one fell swoop you can hit the X key, X for X-ray, and when you hit the X key it will delete that block that you had selected, and at the same time it'll remove the space all in one shot. So there you go, pretty nice. So then when you play this, it just smooth as glass. I mean, it's all good. Now the other cool thing is if I wanted to transition that, all I'd have to do is grab this side, or you could grab this side, but for me it just makes more sense to do it from here most of the time, and then just push it into the other one. So easy. And now you got a nice crossfade. Just like that. Okay, and we're under Properties tab right now, and if we were to just, actually it's already selected, but if you didn't see this up here, your transitions, then you just select this area. And then under our transitions, in addition to the dissolve default, we got all these other cool things like our horizontal bar, barn door, matrix, and blah, blah, blah. So we got all these other transitions that we can use too that are available. Nice. So transitioning couldn't be easier. It's just easy peasy, very effortless. So it really makes the whole workflow really quick. And that was kind of cool, the iris circle. Then also you got this stuff here you got your settings. You can control your softness 20% by default. And you can even crossfade your audio. Yeah, I like that. Well, it crossfades by default, I believe, but you can set your mixing up as well if you wanted to maybe change the ratio of your mix. This is really kind of what attracted me to Shotcut, was the ease of just doing these kind of everyday things, especially when you're doing a lot of cuts. If I got to come down here and do another cut here, and over here, you know, another beehive fell on my head, so I got to cut this out. All that adds up over time. So when you can save a keystroke here and there, it really makes a difference. Now, what I mean by saving a keystroke, let me jump over to Kdenlive. Okay, I'm in Kdenlive. I'm going to go ahead and add in the same video from way back in the old days. Okay, and then drag it into the timeline. Another thing I like about Kdenlive is that by default, we have these extra video and audio tracks, whereas in Shotcut you gotta add those in. So they kind of have them in there, but there's a reason that they're there by default too, which you'll understand in a second if you're not a Kdenlive user. So here it's a little bit different workflow, so to speak. I see also we have this little message here to switch our profile, so I'm just going to go ahead and switch. They kind of look the same to me, but oh well. Okay. In Kdenlive, we just find a spot here, and then to slice it, we would just press Shift R, and that'll cut it very nicely. Then come over to another spot, and we can hit Shift R again. Then we just select our section that we want to cut out, and now instead of having all one fell swoop like an X key, there are two separate operations. So we would hit the delete key, take that out. Now we have a space left over. Now we need to right click and select remove space, and then that'll take it out. So there's essentially two more steps in the process than we had in Shotcut. Now if we were gonna go back here, you might have noticed that there was a hotkey here. That's something that I created. By default, there's no hotkey assigned to remove space, because I thought, well, maybe I can just assign a hotkey to that, and that'll at least eliminate one step. So then I only have one extra step, and maybe that's not so bad. I could probably live with that. It's a lot better than right-clicking as that second step. So I assigned that hotkey to it, and then when I did a delete and I had the space, all I had to do was hit the C key, and it was gone. And I thought, wow, well, that's great. You know, that's a pretty good compromise. I guess I can live with that. But then, oh yes, there is a but then. The problem was that when I used that C key, hotkey, it only worked for maybe 5 or 6 times, maybe 7, 8 times, and then it would just stop working. I would press C and it wouldn't do anything. So then I had to go back to right-clicking and selecting remove space to get rid of that, and it just wouldn't work again. The only way I could really get it back was to close Kdenlive, open it back up, reload the project, and then it would work for maybe 6 or 7 more times, and then stop working. So finally I had to resign to the fact that I'm just going to have to right click and use that remove space key every single time, and so that was really a turn off for me. I even thought that maybe there was some issue with that particular character, so I went back into my keyboard settings, which is really easy to get to, by the way, in Kdenlive. Just hit settings and configure keyboard shortcuts, and then I would do a search for replace, or remove space, I mean, so remove, and here it is. So all I had to do was select this and then click on here to give it a custom keyboard shortcut. And so I tried other things other than C. I tried all kinds of combinations, even like control something. Nothing worked. It was all the same thing. It would work several times and then just stop working. So keyboard shortcut was out for that, unfortunately. Nothing I could do about it. I was just really stuck with remove space. So that was the downer. That was the big thing that kind of made me say, okay, there's just going to be 2 steps to that process in Kdenlive, and there's really nothing I can do about it. It's probably some kind of bug, and I would think eventually the contributors, the developers, will fix that. But for now, it was just a no-go for that. I think that was the single biggest reason why I kind of went with Shotcut, because just doing those normal cutting steps was a lot quicker in Shotcut. And of course, I really like the idea that in Shotcut you could just do your transitions simply by pushing this right into the other so they overlap. And that was a really easy step. It's not a big deal, really, because in Kdenlive all you gotta do is just kind of push it up here and just let it overlap a little bit. And then if you go down in the lower left corner, you got this little purple dot here that appears. And if you click that, it'll automatically put a crossfade wipe on here or a dissolve. And then if you go ahead and play it, it dissolves very nicely into the next scene. Nice. Okay. And then of course if you want to add more wipes or different transitions, just come up here under your wipe method and you got all this cool stuff you can select from. Some of them are kind of the same as in Shotcut, and then some of them are different, like this burst, you know, is pretty cool looking. And you can go there and watch a burst effect. Wow, that's cool. So you got some nice, really nice transitions in here. And some of them I like better than the ones that are in Shotcut by default. Like that checkerboard is cool. So these are nice. This is one area I think Kdenlive really shines. So yes, I think that's very cool. Yeah, the blind effects. So you got all these are really just some fantastic transitions. The other thing that I don't think Shotcut does is, I believe you can download more transitions by clicking on this guy. Yeah, download new wipes. So if you hit this, then you got all these other cool wipes that you can find online. And if you find one and you say, ew, glasses zoom in effects, I must have it, then you can just hit install and it will be added to your wipe library. I really like that. That is just too cool for in this fractal. That's pretty neat, you know? I might just download that just to see what it looks like. So this is just something that, you know, just kind of takes it over the top. So now when we go in here, I'm assuming that fractal's going to be in there somewhere. Or not. I'm thinking that probably you gotta, I guess it doesn't show up until the next time you go in there, I suppose. But anyways, I'm sure the next time I loaded this, I would see fractal in there. Oh, Shad app use. Sorry, I didn't know that was playing all that time. Crap. Okay, hopefully that wasn't overpowering my voice. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to record this all over again. Okay. So anyways, that download will probably show up later. Okay, the other things that we have here are your compositions and effects. So in our effects, you actually have more effects here than in Shotcut, which if you're really heavy on effects, that's pretty cool. Me personally, I don't use much in the effects area other than transform and text. So those really are the most things I use. As far as audio goes though, there have been some instances where I needed to change my gain, and that's going to lead into something else that I want to share with you. So audio, there's more available I think in Kdenlive than in Shotcut. But again, it doesn't really affect me that much because primarily I only use either correction with gain or maybe some other correction type thing, but not really too much beyond that. Maybe a reverb here and there. You got easy access to transform. And actually the easy way to get to transform, you can go to compositions here and just click it here or down here, or if I go way back to where my cut was, over here, you can easily access your transform down here too. Like, for example, if I wanted to take that out, I could right click on this, insert a composition, and you got composite transform right there. So that's kind of a quick access to the transform, and very nice feature, the transform. Now here's an area that really, I think Kdenlive shines way over Shotcut. And I'll show you that right now. I'm just gonna kind of go back, undo all these steps here, so we have the time before the cuts. So, okay, there's sometimes you have a situation where your audio might be messed up on the whole video. Maybe it's too, I don't know, maybe the volume's too low and you gotta crank up the gain or something. I've run into situations where I kind of had some resource problems and my audio was delayed by about a half a second or so, maybe a second from the video, and so I had to resync it. And in my case, that was kind of where I was running into problems. But there's a lot of different reasons you might need to change the audio, fix it in some way, or do something to it that is video wide, that would cover the whole video. And so let's kind of use my example where I was kind of out of sync. So what I would do in Kdenlive, you can simply right click over your timeline here and select ungroup clips. And now these are separate. Your audio is separate from your video. So then if I had to resync this, I could just simply take the audio and slide it over a bit. And then we'll just pretend that it's now back in sync. You know, we found that sweet spot. And so now when I play, it's in perfect sync. Wow. And that's all good. Cool. Now if you had to do some cuts after that, you want to join these back together, because if you don't, then when you do a cut, it's only going to cut in the audio, and then you got to come up here in the video and then do a cut on the video, and then go to the other spot and do the same thing, do a cut, and then go down and click on the audio, do a cut. So that's kind of tedious. So you don't want to have to go through all that. So to get around that, you simply select both the top and bottom, and then you just group your clips back together. Then when you do a cut, you're getting both. Easy peasy. So the rest of your editing is pretty smooth. Now let's compare that in Shotcut. So in Shotcut, we're going to come in here and let's see if I can undo my way back to a solid thing again. Okay. So now I'm in Shotcut. And so let's kind of do the same thing. In Shotcut, you would go here and right click. Under more, you can select detach audio. Now we got audio, and then we have to make our video wide change here to the audio to do whatever, you know, increase volume, or in this case, I would resync it by sliding it over, and then the audio would catch up with the video and everything was happy. Yay! Okay. And then same thing, if you had to cut a section, it's only going to cut this, and if you come up here, it's only going to cut that, and blah blah blah. So again, you kind of want to join these back together. And you might say, well, why not just highlight both of these in the future and then do your cut? Well, you really can't, because if this is highlighted and I hold my control key down and click down here and then do a slice, it only sliced the audio. It didn't do the video. And if you say, well, try shift key, well, that doesn't work either. So you can't really select both of them. So everything from down here, you have to go one and then select up here and then hit slice again, then come over here. Actually, I didn't select that. But you'd have to, you know, slice over the same spot and then come over here, slice, and then go down to audio, slice, and then you can remove them both one at a time. And you got to remember to remove them both, otherwise your audio is going to be all screwed up. And then you might be thinking, okay, well, let's just join them back together. So let's do that. Right click. Under more, nothing. Yes, that's right. You're beyond the point of no return. Once you separate the audio and the video, that's it. There's no getting them back together. So whatever that change was that you made, for the rest of your video editing, you're stuck. When you do a cut, you're stuck having to go through all these steps, having to slice, go down here, slice, go over here, slice, and then go back down and slice. And that is a real turn off. If I had to do edits to the audio like that all the time, then that would kind of be a killer for me. I would definitely be using Kdenlive because it's no fun to have to keep slicing each individual channel all the way down for the rest of your video, especially if you have a long video, like an hour long. So that's a real turn off for me. Fortunately, I don't really run into that issue anymore. In the beginning I did because I wasn't using a real efficient desktop. I was running OpenSUSE and it seemed to be using a lot of resources, at least on the computer I was editing on. And so I was kind of having that problem. But if I found myself where I had to right off the bat take care of a gain problem where I needed to increase the volume or decrease it, I would run into the same problem. Now, the only fix to that really in Shotcut that I know of anyway, and again, I'm just an end user, I'm not an expert, but the way I would have to fix it would be to just render the video here, and then after the video is rendered, close this project and then load the new rendered video in, and then save it as a new project, and then just start editing again. And that's a lot of extra time. Whereas in Kdenlive, I don't have to worry about that at all. So that's where Kdenlive really kicks Shotbutt's butt. Did I say Shotbutt? Okay. Where that kicks Shotcut's butt. That's kind of a tongue twister. Yeah, right. So with audio, yeah, I mean, that's, to me, is kind of a big deal if I ran into that. But lately, the past few months since I've been using Shotcut, I really haven't run into that situation where that was going to be an issue. And maybe it's a very rare thing. Some of you out there may never run into something like that. Some of you may run into it all the time. So just a 411 on that. All right, onward and upward. In Kdenlive, we had a lot of filters, and we also have a lot of filters here in Shotcut. I clicked on the filters tab over here. Then if I come up here to plus, I can add a filter. Right now this whole section covers the whole rest of the video, so I'd probably want to actually add a filter to, it'd be more practical maybe in here. I'd want to add something like a transform, make it smaller, or a text. So I could come over here to video filters and just scroll down and find a text. Actually a little easier than in Kdenlive. However, Kdenlive has some really nice text and backgrounds and all that too, just like here in Shotcut. So here we have time code by default. So if I change that to something else like hi there, then we have our text. And then to change our size, we would simply come over here. And then once we got that, we can resize it here, like say 500 by 500. And that'll just kind of shrink it down a bit. Then we can just move it wherever we want. Hi there. And then our transition, or I mean our section here will have title. Nice. Okay. So doing text and all that is pretty easy. And we have tons of filters to choose from. Our favorites are of course things that you use the most. Kdenlive actually has more video and audio effects, so if you're really heavy into those, Kdenlive's gonna win out probably. And then also, if you were gonna make a transition, once these were all separated and everything, you want to keep in mind if you come over here and you push this in to make your transition, then it's not going to be, your sound isn't transitioning here, so that's going to be off kilter. That's not too cool either. And so then you would have to kind of adjust for that, and you really can't do much for that there. Now if the sound was cut right underneath this, then I could simply drag the sound over separately and make sure that it's the same size as this transition. But obviously we would have to slice here first on the sound to sync that all up. So that's an extra level of complexity. Just going to undo all that. Something you want to keep in mind. So I guess the overall message is, if you're going to separate the sound tracks, don't do it for the whole video. Just find an isolated section that you need to modify, like here, and then you can just separate the sound here, and everything else over here will still be merged. So I guess that's my advice. If you're using Shotcut and you're messing with sound, don't separate the sound on the whole video. Unless you're not going to do any cuts or anything else. If it's just a straight up, I'm going to change the gain, or I'm going to add reverb or some kind of sound effect, and then that's it, then you're fine. But other than that, yeah, I would say don't do that. And if you do that, then you'll need to render the video and then load it back into the project, save it as a new project or whatever, and then continue from there. All right, so I think that's going to cover everything. I hope this video was helpful, and if you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button and hit subscribe. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the next video.